One rapper got poked up for being affiliated with the wrong gang, and another lost his life seconds after leaving jail. Start off with Money Sign Suede, because rapper Money Sign Suede was locked up, serving 2 years and 8 months in Soledad prison for a gun charge. Before getting booked, Suede told everyone in the interviews that he wanted to leave the gang life behind, suggesting that it might have been part of his past, and word on the street was that he didn't want to change when he got locked up. According to what inmates were saying, Suede wasn't rocking with the prison politics and wanted to serve his time alone without having to gangbang. But the Sereños gang wasn't so happy with that, and they ended up costing Suede his life. It's also been reported that he spent a lot of time talking on the phone with his girlfriend, and some say that he had conversations that made some gang members feel like he was dry snitching on them. Just a few months into his sentence, things took a turn. One day, prison guards conducted their routine inmate check, but during the check, Suede didn't show up. So they searched all over the prison to try to find him. They eventually ended up finding Suede, but unfortunately, he was unresponsive in the shower and was bleeding heavily with a wound in his neck. The staff instantly tried to save Suede's life and transported him to the hospital, but it was already too late.
A local up-and-coming rapper has been killed while in prison in Northern California. This is a music video from Money Sign Suede, whose real name is Jaime Brugada Valdez. According to prison officials in Monterey County, Suede's death is being investigated as a homicide. Brugada was found last night in a shower area and was unresponsive. He was pronounced dead a short time later.
Now let's move on to Anthony Myrie, because in February 2019, Anthony Myrie was involved in a fight while in prison. And after the fight, he suddenly just disappeared. The details they discovered were pretty disturbing and unexpected. Anthony Myrie, known by a stage name Trey, gained recognition in the New York rap scene for his raw and unfiltered lyrics, often talking about the harsh realities of street life. Months leading up to his death while in prison, Anthony released a lot of mixtapes and collaborated with a bunch of East Coast rappers. Anthony was in prison, serving 7 years after being convicted of attempted criminal sale of a controlled substance, and the incidents leading up to his death are sketchy, since some believe his death was foul play.
Sade Myrie is haunted by questions without answers.
What happened to him? Where is he? How did he die?
Sade's husband, Anthony Myrie, was an inmate at the Green Correctional Facility upstate New York, serving charge. Monday, Myrie unexpectedly died in prison. For his family here in Brooklyn, it is a painful mystery.
I just love him and I just didn't want him to die in vain.
According to his mom, the prison authority didn't tell the family what happened to him, but there were a lot of clues to work with. On February 11th, 2019, Anthony's wife explained that she'd received a call from Anthony while at the Greens Correctional Facility, and he expressed concern to her, which was kind of unusual for him. After the call ended, she was told by another inmate's family member that Anthony had been placed in solitary confinement. So she called the prison to ask about the situation, and she was told that they had him in the general population. She didn't know how to feel about that, but 5 hours later, she got a call that Anthony was in critical condition. She then attempted to contact Albany Medical Center to speak with somebody responsible for her husband, but found no record of him. She would try calling other local hospitals, but she had no success. However, not long after, she got a call from Green Correctional Facility saying Anthony had been pronounced dead at Albany Medical Center. The same hospital just previously couldn't confirm any record of his body. The spokesperson for the Department of Corrections and Community Supervision reported that Anthony died after being involved in a 3-on-1 fight with other inmates. According to the statement, the guards tried to calm the fight down without using force. Anthony was also said to have been examined immediately by medical staff and found to be unharmed. But just a few moments later, Anthony complained about chest pain and suddenly collapsed. He was then allegedly taken to Albany Medical Center, where he died. Following the unusual details of his death, Cardi B and Meek Mill expressed their reactions on social media. Cardi B shared a message on IG with the caption, "Green Correctional Facility. You're not getting away with this one," hinting that the prison guards may have been responsible for hurting him and accusing all of the officials of lying about where his body was being held. Meek Mill also shared a message and became a voice for prison reform after being held in solitary confinement for breaking his parole. Both artists highlighted the need for transparency and justice in the case of his death. But let's move on to Chicago rapper KTS Dre, because on July 1st, 2021, Dre was sent to prison for a felony case he had back in 2020. The judge gave him a $5,000 bail, and he was sent to Cook County Jail until he posted bail. And Dre was known for having ops around the city, so once Dre landed in prison, he would link up with his gang. But he had to be careful, since he also had a ton of ops in jail with him. Because Dre was a member of the GDs, and was also a part of the Chicago gang Killed to Survive. He was a known target in prison, but since he was also surrounded by several GDs, the chances of his rivals taking him out in prison were pretty hard. So they waited for the right time to strike, because on July 9th, 2021, his $5,000 bail was posted, and the news quickly spread around the city and got into the wrong hands. On Saturday, July 10th, when Dre was released from jail, he was in a good mood. He recorded some videos and took some pictures with his people. While leaving the facility, things took a turn, because two men from two vehicles suddenly stepped out and started firing, showering Dre and his people with bullets. His grandmother was hit in the knee, and an innocent bystander was also grazed in the mouth, but both survived. But Dre ended up getting hit a total of 64 times in the face and torso and passed away immediately at just 31 years old. No one has been arrested for his death, but many say it was the work of the NLMB getting revenge on KTS Dre for dissing their dad and messing with him.
He went by the rap name KTS Dre. He'd just been bailed out, and police say he was ambushed by two men who got out of a vehicle near the jail. Sylvester was shot as many as 64 times and pronounced dead at Mount Sinai. A 60-year-old woman who was with him was shot in the knee and taken to Stroger. A second woman in her 30s was standing nearby when that chaos broke out. She suffered a graze wound to the face. She was taken to Mount Sinai as well, and both women were in good condition at last check.
The clips went mega viral because Dre and his people pressed some NLMB members in the early days of Chicago drill at a McDonald's.
Y'all ain't gotta go nowhere. We finna get some McDonald's before we ain't on there with y'all. Y'all good? These no limbs, man. No limbs. He back there, he don't work here. Where you going? He don't work here. Go back there. He don't work there. We ain't no time for y'all good, shorty. Shorty, y'all good. Right now. Say what? Say it. Hey. Ain't no unzipping enough, shorty. Don't be scared, don't be scared.
Now, let's move on to Casanova, because in 2023, for his involvement in gang activity, the New York federal court sentenced Casanova to 15 years in prison. Now, Casanova had made a big mistake while in jail that would have made his time there harder. His life took a turn when he was indicted on a RICO charge alongside 17 others due to his alleged involvement with the blood gang Untouchable Gorilla Stone Nation, where he was the leader. In June 2023, Casanova asked the judge for a lighter punishment, saying he wanted to leave the gang he was part of. He promised to tell everyone he wasn't in the gang anymore. His family and friends also wrote letters to help him get a shorter sentence. But because of this, the gang got mad at him and started going after him. In that same month, Casanova got into a fight with another inmate, later identified as Ulysses Lugo, in the recreation area of the detention center. The authorities said it lasted for about a minute. At that time, Lugo was seen lunging at Casanova and poking him repeatedly with a sharp object before other gang members joined in. He tried to fight back and managed to poke Lugo several times too, but in the end, Lugo's did Casanova bad. The attack was swift and brutal, with Casanova sustaining multiple wounds to his head and neck. And thankfully, Casanova made it out of this situation alive, because everyone knows he could have gotten killed in prison due to how brutal this situation was.
The self-proclaimed blood gang member who pleaded guilty to federal drug conspiracy charges last year was involved in a vicious fight yesterday at the Essex County Correctional Facility in Newark. These internal reports from correction officers say Senior was slashed with a weapon by another inmate, Ulysses Lugo, and then chased him down with the help of others. We spoke with one officer who responded to the scene.
Inmate Lugo, you couldn't see his face because he was saturated in blood. You couldn't see it at the time because his whole face was saturated in blood and his whole uniform was saturated in blood. Inmate Senior was sitting there and blood was just coming out of his face.
But Casanova isn't the only rapper who barely came out alive while behind bars, because a rapper from Florida who signed to YFN Lucci, known as CP3, had something very disturbing happen to him while in jail. CP3 is currently locked up in Fulton County Jail, and a video came out showing members from YSL poking him up, since he's one of their known ops. Thankfully, CP3 didn't end up losing his life, since it seemed like they really wanted to take him out. But YFN ended up getting back at YSL due to what they did to CP3, because not too long after that video got released, another video came out that showed a YSL rapper tied up and getting whooped by some YSL members.
Too much slime. Stop moving, rough eye, bless your. Too much you slime.
The man even tries removing the YSL tattoo off of the man to make him regret his actions, and the video is pretty crazy.
You weren't crying when you was slime.
Now, let's move on to Chicago rapper 051 Freaky, because all the inmates were in a holding cell, and while in the cell, everything was all good until King Von noticed his op 051 Freaky. Once he saw him, Von slipped out of the handcuffs and headed toward Freaky. Freaky tried hiding, but Von caught him since he couldn't do much and knocked him to the ground. Two other inmates joined in to help Von, and thankfully, prison guards came to the rescue and broke everything up, because if not, Freaky most likely would have gotten beaten to death by the rival members. But after the altercation broke up, Von and Freaky were both removed from the bullpen, and one thing that left everyone confused was how Von was able to get out of the handcuffs.
You could even see that he was cuffed, correct? Because you could see the marks from the cuffs on his arm. How'd you get out of your cuffs? How'd you get out of your cuffs? You don't want to, how'd you get out of your cuffs?
Thought I was still in them.
You thought you were still in them? Are you double jointed? I'm just asking. It's not, I'm not gonna put a case on you or nothing. I just want to know, man.
No, I just got home.
The reason King Von attacked Freaky was because he had a disrespectful tattoo on his arm saying F. L.A. Capone. After the fight, the police wanted a statement from Von and Freaky, and this is what Von had to say.
Can you all explain what happened?
Do nothing.
You refuse to give a statement?
That's my statement right there. I ain't doing nothing.
Mr. Bennett stating that he did not do anything. Anything else you want to add?
No, that's it.
Mr. Howard, in your own words, explain what happened?
Slight accident. It's nothing though. It's nothing.
Anything else you want to add? Do you have any injuries?
But 051 Freaky isn't the only op King Von has that almost lost his life while behind bars. A video hit the internet of known Chicago rapper FBG Butter getting into a brawl in the hallway while he was in jail. It seems like the guys were about to gang up on Butter once they noticed what was going on. But thankfully, police were on site and instantly broke things up right away before Butter ended up getting harmed badly. But now, let's move on to Baby Cino, because what happened to this rapper is one of the worst incidents that happened in the prison's history. Baby Cino was new to the rap game, known for his song, Big Haiti Shot Us, where he rapped about violence and bragged about taking people out. In the music video, he was seen doing gang handshakes tied to a group called Boss Life, which was rumored to be signals for putting hits on people. The song was dedicated to his fallen friend, Gary Mello Laguerre, who was a member of his crew. In 2022, Miami streets were filled with gang violence, leading to many deaths, and Cino was forced to look over his shoulder at all times due to how hot the streets were. And Cino would end up getting into some serious trouble. In March 2022, Miami-Dade police arrested Baby Cino after they spotted him acting suspiciously and carrying a concealed Glock 32 with a full clip. They also noticed his car plates were covered up. A few days later, he was booked into jail, but didn't stay long. He posted bail in under 24 hours and walked out free. What Cino didn't know was that his ops were waiting for him. On March 16th, 2022, a rival gang set up near the prison since they knew he'd be released that afternoon. Around 2:10 p.m., Cino and a man named Dante Collins Banks, who came to pick him up, got into a red Nissan Altima. As they turned onto the freeway, gunmen in another car ambushed them in broad daylight and started letting off shots. The shooters sprayed the cars with bullets, causing it to crash into a barrier wall. Cino was hit at least 40 times in the head and died instantly. Banks, who was also shot, died later at the hospital. The attack was a brutal end to Cino's short career and left the Miami streets shocked.
Keith Starks Jr., seen rapping as Baby Cino, would have been arrested for the shooting in Northwest Miami-Dade, but he too was shot and killed later at another crime scene on the Palmetto Expressway, March 16th.
Here, multiple people were hit.
Cops think that shooting was payback for the February incident.
But it isn't always the inmates or gang members doing disturbing and crazy things to each other behind bars and after leaving jail. Because sometimes it's the guards. Because rapper Queso is currently behind bars fighting 2 murder charges. And his time behind bars ain't been easy. Since in 2021, a video surfaced showing Queso being slammed to the ground by one of the correctional officers. He He posted a video on Instagram showing the situation. After seeing the video, Queso's grandmother even filed a complaint with the prison, but officials responded by saying no evidence was discovered to substantiate misconduct on the part of the member. According to YNR Slugga T, another rapper from Jacksonville, this ain't the only altercation Queso's been involved in on the inside. Slugga T is affiliated with Fulio and is one of Queso's ops. And in a video posted on social media, Slugga T claims he beat Queso up, and now he's afraid of him.
Everybody asking where Queso?
Man, that took up through there, man. I done beat that already, man. I'm scared, man.
But besides what Slugga says, there's no evidence that it actually went down. Now let's move on to Lil Baby's brother, G5, also known as Lil Steve. And G5 was known for making headlines before Lil Baby even blew up in the rap game, because in June 2014, G5 got out of jail and was given 20 to 30 years of probation. Releasing him turned out to be a bad idea for Atlanta police though, because he had pretty much started a crime wave by himself. A month after he got out, he made headlines for breaking into over 100 cars in hotel parking lots. When the news broke, he already had 24 warrants out, but the cops accused him of breaking into 118 whips. According to them, G5 was running around breaking in to steal GPS devices, phones, and laptops. But the biggest thing he was snatching was guns, which made the cops and everyone else more nervous. People in the neighborhood were worried about getting robbed, and the cops told them to stop leaving things in the whip since they couldn't catch G5. But in 2018, he got caught up in a crazier case, and by 2018, Lil Baby was already one of the hottest new rappers in the game. His debut album dropped in May and hit number 3 on the Billboard 200. And in October, he released a collab tape with Gunna and earned a Grammy nomination for the track Drip Harder. But while he was popping off in the industry, his little brother was getting wrapped up in murder cases. On November 30th, 2018, the police found 2 men who got robbed and shot at a Waffle House parking lot in Brookhaven. Nobody knew what went down, but one of the dudes was pronounced dead at the scene while the other was taken to the hospital for treatment. A few days later, the cops arrested a dude named Pierre Gregory Singletary for the shooting. It looked like a simple case at first, but come to find out that Singletary was actually the victim. On December 11th, the cops booked G5 and a dude named Quintez Griffin on felony murder, aggravated assault, armed robbery, and possession of a firearm by a convicted felon. It turns out the shooting didn't even go down at the Waffle House. Roderick Francois survived the shooting, and he told the cops it happened at an apartment complex down the road where Pierre Singletary lived. And while sitting in jail, G5 hasn't been having any good looks because a video surfaced online of some dudes in jail whooping on G5 and putting him under the prison bed.
G5, Lil Baby can't save you this time.
Okay, man. Eddie, bro.
The caption also says, looks like Lil Baby can't save him this time. So there's no telling what G5 didn't do to one of those dudes' loved ones to end up in this position. Now let's move on to Rwandan rapper Jay Polly. In April 2020, during the peak of COVID-19, Joshua Tuishimi was arrested at his home for hosting a party in violation of COVID restrictions. He was later hit with drug charges and accused of possessing a fake negative COVID certificate. However, many believe these charges were just a cover for the government to target individuals seen as enemies of the regime. Jay was a top Rwandan rapper who spoke out against General Paul Kagame's leadership, an act that many Rwandans believe was met with harsh punishment. Jay Ply was detained in Magere prison, which raised suspicions since drug offenders were typically sent to a Waiwa correctional center, and COVID violators were taken to stadiums for education, fines, and release. Instead, Jay spent 5 months in prison, with his court hearing delayed for over a month. On September 2, 2021, Jay was rushed to Mahima Hospital in Kigali in a critical and unresponsive condition. Despite the doctor's efforts to save him, he tragically passed away shortly after. Later reports revealed the cause of his death, since prison guards had forced him to drink a deadly mixture of sugar water and methanol disinfectant, beating him to ensure he consumed it. The effects were quick and devastating. Minutes after drinking that, Jay lost his eyesight and collapsed in extreme pain as the substance destroyed his liver and kidneys. By the time he reached the hospital, it was too late. Jay's death wasn't an isolated incident. He was the 4th rapper critical of General Kagame's regime to die in prison within 2 years. In February 2020, Casito Mahigi died in a similar circumstance in the same prison, followed by Emmanuel Gasakure and Kalisi Mupende. All 4 rappers were known for speaking out against the government, and all paid a deadly price for it. And while in prison, you gotta be careful what you do, because you never know how far some of the inmates are willing to take things. And Crip Mac had to learn this the hard way, and ended up losing his tooth during a crazy fight with a blood member. Crip Mac explains the fight in one of his interviews with Cam Capone News.
I look over, yeah, I'm big. I'm 6'2", 270, I'm big.
You're a big dude.
But this mother 6'4", about 320, 340. You fight me? On Hustlers. A blood from the west side named Brazy. We got it, you fight me, that mother 6'4", about 340, but on swole because he just did 15 years upstate. We get down, cuz, it's a good round on hustlers, cuz, drop me. We get down again on neighborhood crap, cuz, hit me with some horror, cuz, knock the teeth out. I'm like, oh, cuz.
But speaking of fights, one rapper attacked an interviewer for speaking, invading his privacy, and another taught an interviewer a lesson for trying to be cocky. So click this video to see rappers' most heated interviews of all time.